Hello, welcome back to another Women in Puppetry interview. My name is Jennifer Himes, and I started this project to create a resource of inspiration and information for puppeteers everywhere. Were you doing the outreach show at the same time that you were working at Disney?
Yeah, it was part
overlap?
part of my work at Disney.
Okay.
So I was there. It wasn't like a puppetry department at Disney at the time.
Right.
You were in the entertainment department. But
Right.
so I was trained at the Legend of the Lion King, and then I was trained in Disney Crew.
Okay.
And then they opened the Bear in the Big Blue House live show.
Oh, right.
And that was really exciting because at the time you were usually just what they call statist at a park. So I could only really work at the Magic Kingdom. I couldn't go to other parks. Disney Crew was an exception.
Okay.
And so now it's global and people can work
Right.
at multiple parks, but you had to transfer to a different park.
Okay.
So there was a big audition process for Bear in the Big Blue House because it was both Jim Henson and Disney combined. They brought Noel McNeil and Peter Lintz and Tyler Bunch and Vicky down as people kind of to say, hey, this is how you perform these characters. They did like trainings and things. And so you had to audition for it, and it was a lot of like audition. It wasn't like just cattle call audition.
Right.
You had to be recommended as you had to be on a list of people, and mostly it was Disney Crew people because they already knew how to use hand puppets. So I got cast as Ojo in that show, which was great. I was one of, I think, 4 people who did Ojo at the time. And it was a really fun process because it was the first time I had been able to be a part of a show that was created at Disney from the ground up. And so I got to sit and watch the director and see how they did things. And Jeff Conover, who was the puppet specialist, not just puppet specialist, he was the puppet master,
Right.
Was a huge part of that process in figuring out how to train people who didn't naturally have that hand puppet skill and get them to perform at their best. He's a master at that. He's
That's awesome.
encouraging, and he knows, he can see what's not working.
Yeah.
So he was part of the process, and then they built the stage a certain way, and they realized they needed to fix that, and so there was a lot of things that I got to be in sort of behind the scenes on, which was cool.
That's cool.
And then when the show, of course, opened, I had been such a fan of the show. When I was at the Legend of the Lion King, we would have these breaks, and we had a small little TV in the green room, and it got the Disney Channel, and so every time Bear was on, I would just sit there and watch the show. I'm like in my 20s at this point,
Right,
maybe.
yeah.
Maybe 1920. And I was like, oh, it's Bear in the Big Blue House time. And so the whole green room would watch Bear in the Big Blue House.
That's
So
awesome.
I was already familiar with the characters. I loved the music.
It was a great show.
Yeah, and like everybody's character on that show was just so endearing.
Yeah.
And the otters were so funny. And
Of course, yeah.
so it was really exciting to be a part of that. And then I got trained at the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show.
Okay, yeah.
All of those kinds of things. So everything that I was tall enough to do a puppet for, I did.
Right. Or make yourself tall.
Yes, or I would just make myself taller. So there's some things I couldn't use my shoes for. They wouldn't let me.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so I learned all of those things, but I never really let go of the idea that I really wanted to do like Puppets on Sesame Street or television puppetry. So I would still, I had a camera at home, and I would, I had puppets, and I would practice and, try things out, but I didn't really know how to go about that, you know, even though I had friends who worked in that area. It was like, it's not like there's auditions all the time for that kind of thing. So you have to keep your skills up and kind of learn. It's hard to learn on your own.
It is. I tried that.
Yeah, it's hard because you're like, how do I fix this issue?
Yeah.
And you're just not sure. And so I had a lot of, when I used to work with John Terheglia when we were kids, he had done a lot of training with me, and because it's so interesting as a person, he can come off as maybe being a little at the time, like lacking confidence or whatever, or kind of goofy or whatever. But when it comes to work, he is serious. He was like, no, like this, not like this, like this.
Right.
And he was exactly what I needed in order to really like figure out what I needed to do. So I would try to remember back to when we were performing in his basement and going, okay, how did he's, it's opposite, and I have to, all that kind of stuff, changing your brain.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like, how do I figure that out? So I was practicing on my own a lot, And then sometimes things would come through friends at Disney, about, oh, there's going to be somebody's filming a video, they need you here, or they need this or whatever. And I would try to do any kind of like UCF when they wanted to use puppets. I'd be like, hey, you want me, to do it? Or, so I would try to get in wherever I could doing video stuff. I think it was 2005. I was asked by some friends to go to Oklahoma with them. They were working on a video series that had already had done its first season. It was for the Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Okay.
And it was called Pahapahui Island. And so I was asked to go as a puppet wrangler for that shoot. So I went out there and I did a little bit of puppeteering on it, but I was really mostly a puppet wrangler for that one, which I love puppet wrangling. It's like you get so much creativity, and you got to figure things out on the fly, and going through the script and making notes and going, okay, this is talking to the director and going, how do you think this will work? That was great. So I got to do that for a couple of their, I don't know if they were exactly seasons exactly, but I went out there a couple of times, I think starting in 2005, and that was really great to be able to work on a set on a consistent basis and really be around what everybody was doing. It was basically all of my friends were puppeteers, which was really fun. So I liked helping them and, coming up with the ideas together. So that was fun.
That's cool.
But the first time I got to do something that was like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a part of this television thing was 2002. I got married. And my husband and I were both puppeteers. We both worked at Disney together as puppeteers.
Cool.
And so we got back from our honeymoon and were asked to be a part. They were shooting a Sesame Street film in Orlando, and it was supposed to go to like China or something. I don't really remember. But we were asked to be a part of it, and that was really exciting. That's so cool. I think we only worked one day on it, but it was still fun. I got to be, a monster in the background, and my husband was this skateboarding character that had to start before the take started, so he had to be skateboarding. So he was like going back, and he was like kneeling practically, or he was like crouching, not even kneeling, and he was just back and forth the whole day. Yeah. For this. I don't know if it was an opening shot or something, but Big Bird had to walk through, and that was really fun because we got to be on the set, and it was hilarious because I had never been on the set like that before, where it's so produced and everybody knows what they're doing. Right. And one of the interns came and brought throat lozenges, and she said, "These are for talent." And I thought, oh, I'll stay away from those because those are for the talent. I was like, whoops. She's talking to me. Yeah. I'm talent. Okay. I wasn't used to that world. I was like, okay. Yeah. So that was exciting. That was really fun. That was like 2002, I think they shot. I never saw the final result, but it was so exciting. I got to work with Kevin Clash. It was really fun. Cool. I was like, wow, this is a big deal, So that was really fun. So yeah, that was like the first real big produced thing that I had gotten to do as far as camera was concerned, which I really loved, And then of course Pahapahui later in like 2005-ish. Okay. That was puppet wrangling, with a little bit of puppeteering, but mostly wrangling, and I really loved that. And then I would do things here and there. Once again, you just keep up your skills, and you just you're like, okay, maybe I'll make my own videos, and I didn't really know how to do that, and so I was like, okay, I'll just keep trying, practicing and stuff. And then I had a baby, and I went up and auditioned for a show called Big Big World. Okay. Which I sort of made it to the last round of, and then didn't make it all the way through. At that time, I actually hadn't had my baby yet. I was pregnant at the time. I didn't know. And so that year that I was pregnant with my daughter, I had a lot of different puppetry things that were happening as far as like television puppetry was concerned. And I got into a workshop a year later, and I had just had my daughter, and I was like, very uncomfortable with I was kind of like and overwhelmed by life. And I got invited to this Sesame Street workshop. Wow. And I went, but it was challenging because it was like an audition / workshop thing in itself. But I was also like breastfeeding my daughter, and like a lot of this first time I had been separated from her. It was like I couldn't get a good focus, which was unfortunate, and I kept thinking the whole time, I got to get focused, and it was hard because I wasn't in that place in myself to be able to do that. So I went to the workshop, and I was there for a couple days, and then they did cuts, and I got cut. And I was like, well, I deserve to be cut because this was not my best work. Aww. I was just like, and there was a lot of people there. I think it was over 65 people or something. Wow. And it was cool to be able to put on the puppets and, you know, get the camera and stuff. But I just was not there. You know, I wasn't in the right headspace to really focus on what I was supposed to do. And that was a big lesson for me. I was like, you're never going to a workshop again like that where you're not focused. Like, you need to get your life together before you go and, like, put your stuff out there, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'd actually been invited when I was 15 or 16. Kevin Clash was doing a very small hand puppet workshop in New York City. And I lived in Philadelphia, so I was able to go up really quickly. And I had done that when I was like 15 and also gotten cut because I was not ready for it at the time. But that was really cool. That was my first time that I was, and they had like Fraggles there, and I was like, I'm gonna put on a Fraggle.
Awesome.
I was so distracted by putting on a Fraggle, I could not focus on what I was supposed to be doing. Of course.
I have a Fraggle on my hand.
I know. Because Carmen's so good. Like, I'm gonna look really bad if, you know, I can't get this together. Yeah. So Leslie's under the stage with me, and I'm like, Leslie, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I was like, I had a completely different idea. The writer just came over and said I need to do this. She's like, all right, what does a tree frog sound like? So we started making all of these crazy sounds under this like forest of like stuff, and now we're like trying to do all things, and it was like, you know, it was like this, and I was like, that sounds terrible. So I was trying to push it, you know, and it came out as like this little like trill sound thing. I was like, this is not a good sound. And then they go, okay, we're shooting.
Thanks for watching this episode of Women in Puppetry. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. See you next time.